Welcome to the Unlocking the Club podcast, where we host honest and direct conversations about journeys of access, personal truth, and reclaiming space. We share our truth so that you can find the key to own your truth, honor your journey, and reclaim your space. Grab your keys, your wallet, your phone, and invite your friends to meet you at the club. Here's your host, Angela Taylor.
Welcome to a very, very special series of Unlocking the Club, where we explore one of the most important yet often overlooked conversations that we can have, a conversation about estate planning and elder care. I'm your host, Angela Taylor, and over the past few years, my family, my friends, we've learned the hard way about the critical importance of having a will or a trust in place. When unexpected moments arise, not having a plan can leave families vulnerable. And I've seen firsthand how it can create chaos during already challenging times. Recently, I conducted a poll, and the results were startling. 80% of the people that I polled between the ages of 20 and 65 don't have a will or a trust in place. Even more striking is that most of those who do take action, it's only after experiencing a tragic event in their family. National data suggests and supports this as well, with studies showing that a significant majority of adults, particularly between and within the Black and BIPOC communities, have not taken steps to secure their legacies. And when we fail to plan, we leave our families with legal battles, financial burdens, and emotional stress that can take years to untangle. That's why here at Unlocking the Club, we're dedicating an entire 12-part series to unlocking the essentials of estate planning, with bonus episodes focused on adjacent topics. Together with two brilliant minds, Shane Jasmine Young from Young Law Group and Verleana Green-Telusca from VDG Law Group, we'll break down what you need to know about protecting your assets, building a legacy, and making sure your loved ones are cared for when it matters the most. Our goal in this series is to equip you with the knowledge and the tools to take action now before life forces you to. Whether you're just starting out or navigating the complexities of caring for aging loved ones, these conversations will give you the clarity and the confidence to plan for your future. So grab your notebooks, tune in, and let's unlock this critical conversation together. Welcome to Unlocking the Club's special series on estate planning and elder care. Hi, I'm Angela Taylor, your host for Unlocking the Club, and welcome back to our 12-part series on estate planning and elder care. In today's episode, we're going to talk about long-term care planning and elder care. Long-term care is a subject many people avoid, but it's vital to consider it as part of your estate planning and your elder care planning. So today we'll explore from a legal perspective what long-term care entails, how to plan for it, and the different options available to ensure that you and or your loved ones are well cared for in the future. Joining us today to discuss long-term care planning and elder care is Verleana Green-Telusca of VDG Law Group. Verleana, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So great to continue this conversation with you. I want to talk about long-term care and from a legal perspective. I know that you deal with it certainly from a personal perspective and from a legal perspective. And I guess my first question is, what exactly is long-term care and why is it something that people should be thinking about as part of their estate planning?
Long-term care really is getting ready for our elder years. So a lot of people think we will be young forever, and I wish we were, but that is not the case. And we do have to plan for a stage after retirement and in the event that we're unable to care for ourselves. What does that look like? How much will it cost? Will we be living with our children, with another relative, at home with the care of caregivers? Will we be in assisted living, board and care, some sort of convalescent facility? What does that look like as we age? And it's planning to make sure that we either have insurance or the assets in order to take care of ourselves as we age.
Really important perspective. There's a lot of different options. The range of options that you just outlined, I think is really important for us all to know. Because I know for me, in some of the recent conversations I was in with friends and colleagues who are going through this and some of their loved ones, the perception that we have is the nursing home, right?
Mm.
That's long-term care planning is, oh, no one wants to take care of me. You're going to put me in a nursing home. And that creates a lot of tension and friction in the situation. So, how do you assess whether someone will actually need long term care? And when should families start having this conversation and planning for it?
Well, I think you should start planning now, particularly if you're middle aged. You should be thinking about whether or not you should get long term care insurance. So that's really minimum 50 years old. You should be thinking about whether or not I should get long-term care insurance, or do I have enough assets in the event that I become incapacitated, I develop something like dementia later on in life? Do I have enough to take care of me? Or do I need to begin to invest in long-term care insurance that has those benefits? And when we think about being placed in some sort of facility, number one, you may not be able to afford a facility. So let's talk about that. Facilities do cost. And unless you have some sort of Medi-Cal benefit, and it is called Medicaid in different states. So different states have different names for a governmental benefit that will allow you to be placed in a facility at low or no cost. So that is definitely one option, but an option regarding living at home. When we think about long-term care and living at home, that's one of the most expensive options. Why? Because if you need 24-hour care, most of the time you're paying nurses hourly. And that can range anywhere from $60,000 a year to the high end of over $200,000 to $300,000 a year for 24-hour care. So when we think about that and what that looks like, can we manage that? Do we have enough assets to pay for that? Long-term care, I always talk to my clients about long-term care unless we know that they can become what we call Medi-Cal eligible. And that's just living in a facility. Currently, Medi-Cal is not a benefit that allows you to live in your home with the care of caregivers and nurses. The only benefit that allows you to do that is here in California in-home care services, and it pays for a limited number of hours where you can have workers come into your home. And what that means is that you're going to have a loved one, like a daughter, like a niece, like a grandchild, someone who's able to pick up those hours that the caregiver and the IHSS, that's what it's called, in-home care services, isn't able to pick up, and you're not receiving that benefit for. So when we talk about long-term care insurance, that allows nurses to come into your home, provide 24-hour care if that's what you want, or it can also apply to benefits with living in what we call either boarding care or a convalescent home or assisted living. The differences in those are, one, the cost, right? If you want more privacy, it's more expensive. If you want to live in a convalescent home, that's convalescent care, typically 3 persons to a room. Boarding care, 1 person to 2 persons per room. And assisted living, it's like a elder care hotel. You have all the bells and whistles. You have people who can shop for you. You have your doctor who can visit you there, provide you with medication. You have other elders who are living there who you can socialize with. And it's a different sort of environment that provides autonomy to individuals who are aging. But again, you have to think about how you're going to pay for those things. And that's where your long-term care insurance and Medi-Cal planning or Medicaid planning comes in.
Right. Really important to understand those distinctions and to, before you need it or before someone in your family will need it, is to start to think about those options. What is the ideal situation for that particular person? Sometimes it is their state or their condition, and sometimes it's the quality of life that they're choosing or want to choose to be able to live. And this insurance piece, I think, is really important as well. You know, for many of us, in some of the corporate spaces, like they've expanded the insurance policies to account for long-term care for parents as well. Like when you talk about long-term care and insurance, like how does this play a role in the planning process? Because I want to spend a little bit more time here on insurance. And what are the pros and cons of purchasing a policy?
Well, I don't see any potential cons, except if you want to, if you absolutely don't need it. Of course, it's insurance. So you never know if you're going to need it or not. I'll give you an example of a client of mine, and he is a retired professor. He had done well for himself. He decided at about 65 years old, he was going to get long-term care insurance. And he said, you know what? I'm going to put a portion of my money aside. I'm going to pay about $500 to $600 a month for this particular benefit. So if I get older and my children don't have the capacity to assist in taking care of me, then I have long-term care where I can decide to enter into a facility, or I can live on my own with the care of nurses. So 65, he's been paying for this insurance for 20 years. And then all of a sudden he had a debilitating illness and he no longer was able to take care of himself. So he ended up going into assisted living, kind of like your fancy elder hotel. And he was able to use that benefit, and it cost him $0. So when we were planning for his estate and what it looked like when he transitioned, he did very well in terms of his investments. And so we had to figure out how you're going to give your money away, because guess what? You don't need to pay for anything regarding your care because you've invested in it for those 20 years, that $500 to $800 a month, starting at 65 when you didn't need it. So now the $20,000 that it costs for you to live in this facility that pays for all your meals, all of your board, is taken care of. So starting at age 50 and investing in that particular policy would be worth your while, though that's the pro. And it can also apply to, depending on the policy, to, like I said, a facility or in-home nurses. The only con it is depending on what you want, how you want to live, is the cost, right?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Well, and there's a lot of misnomers out there, and I know I myself am confused about, you've amassed, a nice savings account or retirement account or investment account, and now require elder care. Do you get to keep that? Can you somehow be able to bequeath that to your, kids or somebody else, or does the state take this? Like, right, there's all these different stories that are out there. I know I would love some clarity over, like, how do you protect the assets that you've acquired? Much of it probably is in the estate planning process. And what should you expect these entities to be able to go seek to take on?
That's a good question. And it really is going to depend on what government benefits you seek as an elder person. So if you are receiving benefits like Medi-Cal, that is a need-based benefit. So here in California, it says that you can only have a certain amount of income coming in every month, and you can only have a certain amount of assets. They changed the law so that they're allowing people, particularly here in California, to have more assets and to become Medi-Cal eligible. Why? Because the cost of living in California is really expensive. So
Yeah.
the old rule was that you could only have, I think it was like $20,000 in assets or something like that. And I'm sorry, $2,000 a month. Sorry, I had to correct that. $2,000 a month in income and a
Okay.
very limited amount of assets. If you were a married couple, you could leave your home to your spouse. If you had a home, Medi-Cal, for example, you didn't have a trust, Medi-Cal could come back and you open up that probate and say, we want every dollar that this elder spent or we spent on this elder in Medi-Cal benefits back,
Wow.
right? And the issue was, and it still is that there's a look back period. So for example, people tried to say, you know what, let's get rid of the assets. You have nothing. We're going to transfer it to my kid. Good idea if you time it right. But what Medi-Cal says, if an elder person has had certain assets in their name, they look back 5 years to determine what assets they had. And if
Okay.
it's given to a child or someone else within that 5-year period, they'll still come after that estate once that elder passes away. So we have to be careful and plan early. So if we know, for example, dementia runs in our family, maybe at a particular age, maybe 60, maybe 65. We don't know. Maybe you should start transferring those assets on to your loved ones if you know, hey, I didn't get that long-term care insurance that I need and I don't have enough time to build up those benefits. Or you say to yourself, you know what, I don't have enough liquid assets to pay $10,000 to $20,000 for a nurse. At that point, you're getting ready to retire. You might say, I have to trust my kids, and maybe I'll transfer some of those assets over to them so that I can become eligible for these benefits that I may or may not need in the future. But the best way to plan, instead of relying on those government need-based benefits, is to make sure that you're able to take care of yourself. And if you can afford long-term care insurance, that $500 to $800 a month, depending on what the plan is, or even a living benefit through a universal life insurance plan, is a good way to make sure you have that in your toolkit of estate planning before you need it.
Okay. Okay. Ooh, another reason why you should seek consultation with an expert like Verleana or Shane as soon as possible to start putting this together. Right? It's so complex and complicated. It can feel overwhelming. But when you are in conversations with someone like Verleana, you see the wealth of expertise and information that she has can kind of maybe distill some of these complex concepts into some really simple things that you can do. When I think about families, Verleana, oftentimes you hear all the crazy stories, right? The train wrecks that are happening when we think about long-term care.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of think about like if we can design what that needs to look and feel like and be proactive, like what role can family members play in providing or managing long-term care? And how can we better prepare for this responsibility? Because we're all going to get old, right? Age is happening no matter what. How can we better prepare for this?
I think one, like you said, having those conversations early and often, the first thing is that you want the potential people who you might call on for care in the room to say, you know what, are you available to take care of me if this happens? Kind of taking an inventory. Who lives in this area, right? I have a lot of clients, their children have moved away. Their children now have their own families. So who's going to take care of you if something happens and you're getting old? Thinking about, will I move with one of my children and sell my own home? Having that discussion, and when should that happen? Also thinking about taking an inventory on what your assets look like and being realistic. how much money do I have?
Yeah.
Do I have enough for retirement? We call it the three-legged stool, right? The money you've saved, your retirement benefits, and when I was teaching elder care, it was your any supplemental benefit that you would receive for the government, right? Your Social Security. Right now, we don't. So the three-legged stool, it might be a two-legged stool because Social Security is a question mark.
Yeah, that's true.
It is not guaranteed. So we have to take inventory of what that looks like, who's going to be in what positions, right? Are children going to be there? Someone else who really loves us, cares for us, who's willing to sacrifice and take care of me. And maybe we can even barter. You live here for free for caretaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And having those conversations so it's clear. Hey, I'm 70 years old. It looks like I might live till I'm 90 years old or beyond. How much money do I need to take care of myself? Yeah. Right? And if we don't do that early and have those conversations often with the people that we care about, disasters happen, meaning we're scrambling to get Medicaid eligible. We're thinking about transferring assets out of our names. And then once we pass away, our family members are scrambling and figuring out, what do we do to protect this asset? And there's nothing that you can do because you didn't plan. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So, Angela, I think you have to really sit down with family members, take an inventory, determining where you'll live, determining how much taxes you'll pay, determining where that income is going to come from, and determining what you'll need to take care of yourself in the event that you are incapacitated, you're unable to take care of yourself, you need nurses, or you need to be in a facility.
Oh, that is great advice. Great advice. And I think oftentimes what you see is we go into these conversations looking at the negative side of it, right? That we're closer to the end of our journey than we are to the beginning. And it's one of those perspectives and mindsets I would love for us to reframe. And this conversation is really about how can we proactively design our quality of life at different stages of our journey. And like, what is the quality of life that you want to have as you turn 60, 65, 70 and beyond? And be proactive participant in designing that with your friends, family, and others.
Absolutely. And I think it's a fun thing to do. Right now, my husband, he has this perspective. We have children, they're 4 and 7. But he tells our children, he's instilling in them already, you're going to take care of mommy and daddy, right? So you have to get a good job right now, right? To make sure that that's done. So that's just my husband's retirement plan. I know everybody's retirement plan looks a little bit different, but we definitely have to think about those things. And I tell my clients all the time the horror stories, particularly when it comes to conservatorships. And I have a lot of clients who didn't make a plan. They are single individuals. They had a spouse who passed away, or they never were married, and something happens and they have no one to take care of them. And what ends up happening is that the state can come in and make those decisions. The state can charge you hundreds, thousands of dollars to just take you to the doctor, right? If you don't plan ahead, and none of your family members even know that you're in a particular condition, you even need care. And I have one horror story. Client of mine lived in Piedmont and was an older person, had a disabled child. She was in her 90s. The child was in his 60s. And what we call a private fiduciary got involved. They found out, sometimes it's through a doctor that this person doesn't have capacity, has dementia or some sort of other illness, and they're trying to take care of themselves, but they know that this person is either neglecting themselves, they're not paying bills. So then the public guardian or even a private fiduciary will do a petition and say, this person is elder, they can't take care of themselves. We want to come in and take care of this person. And guess what? Particularly a private fiduciary is going to charge you $200, $300 an hour to what? Do what? Go check your mail, provide you with meals, make sure that you're taking medication. And that's just someone managing your caregivers. They're not involved with direct caregiving, right? They're charging you this particular money. So you have to, elder care is not just about making sure we have enough money, because sometimes people do, but making sure family members, people you trust, are in place and know, hey, check on me. If make sure that I'm okay. I don't want anyone coming in and abusing me. So we have to also have those conversations, not just about making sure we have enough money, but making sure we have people we trust in place who are managing our care appropriately.
No, really, another really important piece. Well, and as you talk about teaching elder care, what's one piece of advice, if our listeners and viewers can take one thing away from our conversation today about long-term care or elder care, what's one piece of advice you would have for them?
Plan now. Plan now. We never know when we're going to need care when we're older. You want to have what they call that nest egg. Get it in place. If you're 50 years old, you're still working, this is the perfect time to make sure that you have a long-term care insurance policy. Because guess what? The premium only goes up as you get older. So why don't you lock that rate in now, so that if you are paying $500, $800 a month, you're getting a benefit when you need it of $20,000, $30,000 a month. So do it now.
Yeah. The future is now, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely start planning today. And so again, for another episode of Unlocking the Club, Verleana, thank you so much for the perspective on long-term care and elder care, how important it is for us to start having these conversations today, now, and to actually make it fun. Like your husband is sprinkling the seeds for your kids, so that they actually know that it is something that they can start planning for now, and being part of, a participant in, and not just someone who along the way has to participate reluctantly. So thank you once again for sharing this knowledge and expertise around long-term planning and elder care here on Unlocking the Club. Again, for another episode in our Unlocking Estate Planning and Elder Care series. I am so grateful for Verleana for being part of this. Make sure you continue to subscribe to Unlocking the Club so you can stay tuned for our next episode. This is such a powerful series. There's 12 really important topics that we hope will help you all unlock your future and your family's legacy in a powerful way. So for Verleana, I'm Angela. Thanks again for joining us on Unlocking the Club. Until next time, be well.
Thanks for listening to Unlocking the Club. If this conversation resonated with you, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or your favorite streaming platform so that you can experience every episode. And follow us on social media, where you'll hear about future guests, access special features, and connect with this amazing community. Head on over there and let us know how you are unlocking the club. Until next time, peace.